What is good, everybody? I hope everybody's having a great day. Welcome back to Nothing But G Takes, and I'm here to discuss some anime with you guys because I think it's been about 2 months since the last time we talked about it, and honestly, a lot has happened. A lot has happened in One Piece. I haven't really said too much. 'Cause I know a lot of you guys are, behind and I'm doing, the sports and stuff like that. So I definitely need to make sure I keep you guys in tune. But, a lot of the times I understand that a lot of you guys aren't even caught up on like, the anime. So I don't be trying to spoil nothing for you guys, but the show must go on. But I did want to touch on, so I went and saw the Demon Slayer movie as well. I saw it twice actually. But man, that movie was good. I hate that and it took them about 5 years, 4 years to put it on screen and show people and stuff like that. But at the end of the day, like I was just I wasn't surprised. I wish they could have gave some people a little bit more spotlight, a couple more moves and stuff like that. But I understand that's not like the big picture or the main point of a lot of their fights. A lot of their fights are supposed to be like short, not long and drawn out and stuff like that. So I understand. But I feel bad for my girl Shinobu. She had to really endure a lot of things, man. And you know, it's sad that in order to beat Doma, she had to really go to that extent. But she had that resolve to make sure she did what she had to do to make sure the job got done. So, respect to her, man. Real stuff. And I can't wait to see what Canal looks like in the next movie because we didn't really get to see what the first Hashira looked like with the flower breathing form, and now we will be able to at least get a glimpse of what the forms look like. Might not be as perfected as the previous user, but her big sister, like her big sister did her thing because she was able to fight Doma all the way up until sunrise. So I definitely can't wait to see what Canal is gonna look like in the adaptation. I know how the fights and stuff like that, you know, in are gonna go, but just to see what he look like on screen, and not on paper. Um, I seen a lot of people. They say, especially after watching the movie, Akaza has the saddest backstory. I definitely agree. Um, to go from being a person who is just trying to, you know, do good by your father at this point in time, because if you saw the movie, you seen his backstory. If you read the manga, you seen his backstory. He was doing all those bad things to try and take care of his family, trying to take care of his father. And his father, after hearing so many times he took his own life, after hearing that he was stealing so many times, his father ended up taking his own life. And you know, Akaza kind of he was reborn and started to do better for himself, and that was just taken away from him, very rudely and abruptly by the other dojo. And he had to do what he had to do. I'm not gonna sit right here and say that I wouldn't have done the same. Like, you body bag my shorty and my now father-in-law after I leave to go tell my father what I've done, which is basically, become a good citizen in society. I can't even come back and my wife and my father be alive. Like, body bag. That's crazy. So I don't feel bad, like I feel bad in the sense of his backstory is sad and stuff like that. But then and that Muzan made him a demon like unwillingly, because you gotta remember that he's probably the only demon out of like the higher ups that he did not remember his past. So I give Akaza a little bit of a pass, but he did eat a lot of dudes. He was the only person, he was the only demon out of the top ranks that did not eat women. So I do respect him for that too. So he only killed dudes. which is not as bad in my eyes. That boy Tanjiro and that boy Gi was out there going crazy. The fact that man Akazu was out there making home and beacon like fist bombs was like he like when he upped it when Giyu got his mark, that right there was crazy. Like, yeah, yeah, that's a scrap right there. That's a scrap. But yeah, that man Tanjiro was going crazy with that sun breathing, no cap. I can't wait to see what he does against Muzan. Real stuff. But without further ado, we're gonna go ahead and get into the main topic today, which is some One Piece. So I know that the last time I talked to you guys when we were talking about One Piece, I was like in chapter 1155, and like I said, I don't really be trying to spoil too much, but I gotta let the channel know I gotta talk about this, man, because a lot of good stuff that been going on, man. A lot of good stuff. So I have some things written down from a couple of the other chapters too, because I kind of want you guys to get an understanding like where I am right now, which is 1161. I'm not going to tell you guys too much or go in depth about a lot of things, but a lot of things that did point out or stick out to me, I am going to go into detail about. But in 1156, we found out that the Kuja pirates were kind of idols in the world of One Piece in this time. So like how Japan has like pop idols and stuff like that, that's what the Kuja pirates basically were in this era of piracy. And basically it got to the point where like even like their bounties had bounties. Like you had to pay money just to have a bounty poster that these people would put up in their rooms and stuff like that. Like it's crazy. The Marines wouldn't even fight them back. You know what I mean? Like the Marines would, if they saw the Kuja pirates, the Marines would basically just let them go. And at this point in time, the Kuja pirates were pirated by Gloriosa being the captain. And so she wasn't on the Rocks pirates at this point. So she was the captain of the Kuja pirates, and Shaki was her right hand man, right hand woman, or her first in command. Um, we also get a glimpse at not necessarily the jealousness that is going on between the Kuja pirates, but the cute little interaction between how Gloriosa and Shaki ended up being like the way that they were with who they ended up being with. But now we get an understanding that Gloriosa had a major, huge crush on Roger, but Roger had a huge crush on Shaki. But the crazy thing is, Shockey had a huge crush on Rayleigh, the biggest square situation I've ever seen in my life. Like, not saying that this is not typical anime stuff because they do that triangle junk all the way, all the time. But man, it's crazy to see that basically the finest woman wanted the number one on Roger's crew, while the bad is the number one on her crew, which is the Kuja Pirates crew, wanted Roger, and he didn't even want her like that. He wanted the number two, which is it just goes to show that sometimes beauty ain't everything, no, beauty is everything, because they were basically saying that she was the most beautiful woman, even though Gloriosa was the captain or whatever. But at this point in time, beauty meant a lot. And it brings me back to how dudes, they fight over women every day. Especially back in the day, they used to definitely be scrapping over women. So I could definitely see like how in that era, especially when like Vikings and stuff like that, I could definitely see like how dudes, especially in that time period, how they could end up getting into full blown wars back then over a woman. Um, and we even get a little hint at some of these things like Gloriosa and our believed thought of Luffy's mom, who we believe who's Luffy's mom is. She's bringing Gloriosa some fan letters. Like I said, like at this point in time, they were idols or seen as idols. So Gloriosa received some fan letters from who we believe to be Luffy's mom. And, she looks over and she goes, who's that pal over there? And it was a giant mountain pal about 100 times bigger. And that pal was for Shaki. That's how much people love Shaki. in this era. That's how much people like if the Kuja Pirates were to come somewhere that like they were literally getting fan letters, people giving them money. Like at the end of the day, like though they were basically like I can't even think of like a comparison of like a really strong woman that could really just get away with anything. I don't know. I don't know. Queen Elizabeth, I don't know. That's just those funny shit. Hey, my girl, my girl, Queen Elizabeth. But still, get back into it. So we found out that Gloriosa is, in love with Roger, which we then now get an understanding why she left to go be on the Rocks Pirates, because at the end of the day she was trying to chase after the man that she wanted to be with. And that's what she was trying to tell Boa back in the day. Like in order to get over that love sickness, you have to basically go try and find your man, or follow him, or pretty much get off the island. That love sickness basically kill you type thing. So that's basically what Gloriosa ended up doing. That's how she ended up on the Rocks Pirates, which is crazy. But we all, like I said, we see Roger and Gabon gooning over Shocky when the Roger Pirates and the Kuja Pirates end up meeting up just randomly. Just in this chapter, they ended up coming into the same vicinity, and Roger tries to go basically after the Kuja Pirates to try and steal Shocky. And basically, Shocky beats Roger and Gabon up as they try and, fight and all that good stuff. And basically, Wink looks over at Rayleigh and gives that man a little wink. And basically, Rayleigh's like, I'm surrounded by idiots. Basically, trying to play it cool. He not trying to be up on Shocky and stuff like that, how everybody else is, which honestly and truly was like winning her over. That's pretty much how he ended up getting with Shocky, is basically playing it cool, man. Being a cool cat, not trying to be quote unquote tied down. That's what he told Roger. I'm not trying to be tied down right now. And Roger looking at him like, what? It's the baddest woman in the era. It's the baddest woman on the world at the moment. She telling you that she wants you, and you telling her that you don't want to be with her, brother. You crazy. I would have been saying the same thing. I ain't gonna lie. I would have been saying the same exact thing, mind you. After getting beat up by Shocky, this man Roger is still like, dang, I like Shocky too much. Mind you, Gloriosa is sitting right there and basically confessing herself to this man. Like, how crazy is that? Like, I ain't gonna lie, I ain't that much of a dog. I ain't that much of a dog. I ain't finna be talking about another chick while a chick that's openly telling me that she liked me sitting right next to me. But yeah, it was just crazy. After she basically kicked Roger and stuff like that, that girl Gloriosa go up to Roger and basically goes, Roger, do you not know that I'm the one that you like that likes you? Like, dang, like this girl's over here fawning for you. And this what you doing? This what you doing? Crazy about you. But basically, bro, basically ignored the mess out of her. As soon as she's like, she's saying that his ear, bro, basically ignored her. And it's like I said, it's just crazy that during this whole interaction, like Rayleigh's just standing there like idiots. And Shocky looks over at Rayleigh and gives him a nice little wink and a kiss. Like she basically she was throwing herself at that man. Throwing herself. And like I said, in the later conversation, you'll understand, like, he fixed himself. He got back right. He got back right. But during the mix of, Roger and, trying to get the Kuja Pirates and trying to get Shocky and all the rest of that stuff, that man Garp ended up pulling up on Roger and the Roger Pirates. And basically, Roger and Garp, instead of, because at first, Roger was basically telling his crew, get everything and let's get out of here. As soon as he noticed it was Garp, and as soon as Garp noticed it was Roger, he was like, change your plans. Let's fight. They were saying like The narrators basically said like during this time period, like Roger and Garp like were burning with the passion of youth. Like, man, them boys was trying to get after it. That's all I got from that. They when they see each other, it was on sight. I'm trying to get active, bro. I'm trying to see if you stronger than me. When the last time I seen you, I bet. You remember that? You remember that last time? It's that get back. Like, they was really on that action. They was really on that action. They didn't. They literally saw each other's. They literally saw each other and wasted no time. I'm weak, but them two got into a big old hockey clash in the middle of the sea, and it was pretty cool to really see like that man Garp and that man Roger really going at it, because during this time period they are known as the Navy and pirate rivals at this point in time. Garp was a rival to all them folks, but when it came down to Roger, like Garp was his opposite. You know what I'm saying? On the other side. So it was really cool to see, their interaction and how their battles kind of went, because at the end of the day, like, shoot, when they saw each other, they weren't running. They weren't running. If they was running, it was running forward. head first. Head first. They was running forward head first. But yeah, man. So then we go from, their interaction and all that good stuff, the lovey-dovey stuff, and getting a little tad bit of a hint of maybe of what is to come, to then we shift over to Rox and Harold meeting up at Eva's Tavern and Elbath, and basically, them basically having a discussion of, the world government, what, you know, the plans may be looking like for Rox at this point in time. And honestly and truly, just I think Rox really just honestly and truly, I know he was trying to get Hero to join the Rox Pirates, but at this point in time, you're really kind of getting the understanding that Rox really only had one real close friend at this point in time. And, Oda's really giving us the understanding and because again, we're in Elbath. So he's trying to tie, Rox and the understanding of what's going on in Elbath together. And again, we're going to talk about, a key point of what we believe Rox is trying to be there for. But I really do think that Rox, really saw Hero as like a really good friend. You know what I mean? And so Rox and Hero end up meeting up again at Edith's Tavern. Loki had basically took one of the fishermen's boats and had ended up almost drowning in the ocean. And Ida, who is Harold's not necessarily side chick, but like she the wife that won the wife. You know what I mean? But anyways, um, Ida is basically fussing out the fisherman for basically not going to save Loki, who is Harold's son. And basically Loki, after Ida fusses out the fisherman, Loki's like I ain't asked you to do all that, pretty much. Like, shut up, you old hag. Like, first off, this little boy is talking crazy. Talking crazy. I would not let no little boy be talking to me like that. That's just me. But, you know, Haruden, standing on business, was not finna let no little boy be talking to his mama like that. So he was definitely trying to scrap that. They was trying to throw hands, put paws on each other, man. And just to see their relationship, especially where we at right now and what we're possibly gonna see later on, it's nice to see their interaction as kids. And it's nice to see that, like I said, that man Loki had a mother, even if it wasn't his own mom, you know? We then shift to Power Island, where we see young Silver Axe basically coming on to Pirate Island, basically to find the Rocks Pirates to become a member of the Rocks Pirates, which is really cool to see that Silver Axe was actually a rival of Shiki. Um, I didn't know that. I think somebody else may. I think that might have been said in the movie that Shiki was in, or in SBS, but I didn't know that Silver Axe was Shiki's rival, unless it said it in the manga. 'Cause I can't remember where I read that. I read that somewhere, but yeah, it might have said that in the manga. But yeah, Silver Axe was Shiki's rival, and they ended up joining the Rocks Pirates, which is pretty cool, you know. But that also gives me a better understanding of why they were having so much infighting, because they literally had rivals. I think all of them pretty much are rivals of each other. You know what I mean? But they literally had rivals that they were already rivals with, being on the same, you know, squad as them, being on the same crew as them. Um, and then like I said, we then get shift from us being down there seeing where Silver Axe is basically trying to find where the Rocks Pirates are, to we shift where Rocks is basically putting the two giant holes in the skull where Pyro Island is, and then that's how we basically get the eyes. And then him giving his grand scheme of what he believes is gonna take to take down the world government, which is basically the two devil fruits that he believes. And one of the devil fruits he believes will show itself, will show its true power if Harold eats it. That's one of the main reasons why Rocks wants Harold to join his side. But again, I also believe that Rocks definitely believes that Harold is his friend. Um, and one of the main reasons why I do believe that is because when Kaido just says, you know, why are you trying to be all peaceful with them? Why, you know, won't we just go in there and just take it? You know, just do it yourself. You know, just make them do it. And Rocks basically kicks him in the face and says, "Don't you ever say that to me ever again." Like I definitely feel like Rocks took that to heart. Like he didn't, don't talk about my friend like that. You know what I mean? If I'm gonna do something crazy, I'm gonna do it. But you better not bring nothing up like that. And I like, you know, I at least have some respect for him in that sense. Like, because he wants people to respect him. You know, like he wants people to respect Harold just as much as he respects him. You know what I mean? And I like that. And the thing that really gets me with Rocks, and again, like something that I'm gonna touch on a little bit later on, is that Rocks knew a lot for a person who didn't have a quote unquote scholar, or you know, any quote unquote knowledge of the poneglyphs or something, or you know, to an extent. He knew about the frozen giants and Golly Law. He knew about the two devil fruits that he would need for to take down the world government. He knew who Emu was, because there's no way that he didn't know who Emu was. You know what I mean? He either knew who Emu was or he had an idea of who Emu was. Went up to Emu and basically said that, you know what I'm saying, I'm here. I'm coming. And basically he, like, again, he did all of that. Not, he had to have known what was going on in the world. You know what I'm saying? So to me, that like that was just one of the crazy parts that was spoken of in that point in the manga in 1156, because he started to talk about, or they started to talk about the frozen giants that were in prison. How would he know about them? There is no way. And then he was like, the only way that we would get them to listen to what we want to do is if we got Harold with us. What you know that we don't know, big dog? Because you clearly know a lot more. A lot more. Mind you, we watching the show like to the T. So we current. And we don't even know how, like, the dang straw hats don't even know half the stuff that man know. And he only been quote unquote in the game for, at this point in time, for maybe a year, maybe two. So that's crazy. That he pretty much knows or has an idea of what has gone down with the world government 2 years in the game. 2 years in the game. So yeah, man. Just to kind of see like the Rocks Pirates be formed, you know, see Silver Axe be one of those main crew members, and you know, he was a rival, Shiki, and then Rocks give his, you know, explanation of that he needs the two devil fruits and why he needed Harold to help him with the frozen giant. You can't tell me that them frozen giants ain't make the Noah's Ark for the fish man. You can't tell me. You can't tell me they ain't built that freaking Pluton. They ain't built Pluton. You can't tell me, because that is making too much sense now. It's making too much sense. Because why would he need them to take down them, to take down the world government? Why? How would he even know that? Which then brings me, either he either knew about that information from somebody in his past, or he was married, or he liked and or been around somebody who knew about something, which again we'll talk about later on. Now, I'm not gonna get into each chapter, because I don't know where each chapter starts, where each chapter ends, especially with the information that I'm going to tell y'all. So from here forth, this is kind of just like off the, not necessarily off the dome, but just, I'm not trying to spoil too much for you guys. You know what I mean? Um, so from that chapter, we then go to the next chapter, where basically we're starting off with the Rocks Pirates basically taking some money from a quote unquote charity people. Like that, these people were quote unquote getting money for charity to give to charity, quote unquote. But basically, we found out that they were a corrupt organization, and Big Mom is funny. Big Mom was like as they're running off with the money and stuff like that, they're like, yeah, sure, that's what you guys were gonna do with the money. If that's what you're gonna do with the money, why haven't you given it to them already? Like, dang, not y'all out here stealing money from charity. Mind you, this is a church. I think it was a church that was out there stealing money from charity like that. So I'm like, dang. But, Whitebeard ended up using his Quake fruit, which is really cool, man. Which is really cool to really see his and Kaido's reaction. Honestly and truly, the whole crew's reaction. Because now we're really kind of getting an understanding of what the quote unquote infighting looked like when it came down to the Rock Pirates. And so, man, Shiki even tried to kill some of the Rocks Pirates, just because he thought that if he got rid of some of them, he would get a larger cut of the money, of the charity money that they had basically just stolen. And him and Silver Axe even have like a little small interaction where basically that man Shiki basically looks at what's that man's name? Kyo. That's what I was thinking of. Kyo basically raises his head up and he's like, "Who threw that bomb at me?" Basically he's like, "It was you, wasn't it, Shiki?" And then Shiki looks back at him with like some girly googly eyes and goes, "Oh, Kyo, you're safe. I was so worried about you. Like, boy, if you'll get your like, I'm telling you, like they clearly were acting like bad siblings. You know what I'm saying? Like, I don't really think that he would think that that would have killed any of them, but he was doing it to mess with them. You know what I mean? Like like as we read and go through One Piece, I just think that honestly, Rocks was just like a dad with a whole bunch of bad children. That's basically all I'm hearing. That's basically all I'm understanding, is that Ross was a dad trying to make some shake with badass kids. Real stuff. But then from there we basically find out, because at this point in time they're trying to get off the island. The Navy had at this point pulled up, and we then found out, not only are we having so much infighting, but your infighting basically caused us to, get away with the money a little slower than we were planning on, which then caused the Navy to show up. But the Navy shouldn't have shown up this fast. So then it gave them, understanding that not only, is our infighting causing us a lot of problem and a lot of grief, but we also have a Navy informant most likely on our crew as well. So, you know, it really just goes to show that, especially when you have larger crews, if you have a larger crew, it's more room for you to be betrayed than if you have a smaller crew. And the only reason why I say that is because Whitebeard had a large crew, got betrayed by old buddy and by old buddy and Marine Ford, and then situation like this where they're supposed to be, because you gotta remember they do have like the top dogs, but they also have like the little scrubs. The scrubs is what get you in trouble. Straw hats don't really have a lot of they don't have scrubs on their boat because they only have one boat. A lot of other the big guys, they have multiple ships. We don't have that. So I see the differences in what the bigger crews have to deal with versus the smaller crew. Because I'm one of the people that be like, Luffy should have more people on his crew, but then you have to deal with stuff like that. I take that statement back. I don't want nobody out here telling my business and stuff like that, especially to the government. But they also go in to talk about their track record. Within the last 2 years, the Rocks Pirates had completed about 16 documented raids. They sunk about 76 sunken ships, 14 ports reduced to ash, 5 towns wiped off the map, one nation brought to ruins, and more. Like them boys is out there, the boys and gals was out there putting in work within those 2 years. That's just within the 2 years. They still was getting active, like even a little bit before and a little bit after. So basically, even though Roger was, the talk of the town, that was Rox's heir. Rox was the big dog. And this is why I say, at this point in time, Roger was probably trying to get to where Rox is, you know what I mean, in power level, because I definitely feel like Rox was definitely stronger than Roger at this point in time, especially if he's scrapping Harold, you know, and a 1v1 duel, no help. I don't know about all that, big dog. That sounds kind of crazy right there. Mind you, I don't think Harold is a scrub. I do not think Harold is a scrub at all. At all. I don't think Rogers is a scrub neither. I think Rogers is gonna have a little bit more of a problem on his hands than Rox is at this point in time. Um, we then shift to we saw Harold defending the nation that helped him out when his nation was going through a famine at the time. And basically, a world government officer basically threatened to shoot a woman in front of him, and then shot her. And Harold wasn't going for none of that. So he ended up fighting the world government people that day, which then set him back on his own goal, which is basically making Elbaf a established member nation. Um, and at the end of this chapter of 156, we then find out that the world government then tries to flip the script on Harold and basically tell Harold, if you want to be a part of the world government, all we want you to do now is we want you to kill Harold, which is crazy. I mean, we want you to kill Rox, which is crazy to tell Harold to basically kill his best friend at this point in time, which I do believe was his best friend. So yeah, that's just crazy to see their dynamic and how the world government is always trying to pin people against each other. You know what I mean? If they can't use you, they'll use you. I mean, if they can't have you, they'll use you for sure, for sure. And if they can have you and they figure out a way to use you, they'll definitely do that too. Definitely do that too. Um, we then get a small little glimpse of Harold and before the world government basically tells Rox that he wants, or basically tells Harold that they want Raw. I apologize. Before the world government tells Harold that they want him to kill Rox, we then have an interaction with Harold, basically talking with Rox about how he shaved his head and how Gart was basically laughing at him and stuff like that, and asked him if it was a cultural thing because he randomly did it out of nowhere. Which honestly and truly was very shocking to me because it gives us again another glimpse. There was a picture in Elbath with Harold with a bald head and him having like a very gloomy look to him, and now I guess we have a better understanding of why he looks so gloomy. Is because I think around this is also like around the time where, like I said, the world government basically asked him to kill his friend, and he had to make business decisions and hard decisions that he didn't want to make. And I guess now I have like a bigger understanding. Like the world government really put him in hard situations where he had to, defend different countries and nations and stuff like that against them, while then trying to help his own cause, and also, try and keep his friendship with, somebody that he was real close with. It's just like I said, the world government is crazy. It's wild. They'll figure out a way to use you in any type of way. But after this, we also get, or during this time period, we also get a small little look at, a young Garp, a young Sengoku, a young Otsuru, and a young Vice. No, not Vice, but a young Admiral Kong. So at this point in time, we got a different fleet admiral. I wonder who that fleet admiral is at this point in time. But to see, those young guys chopping it up, and basically the conversation was about Elbath, and if Elbath should be a part of the nation and stuff like that, which they wanted Elbath to be a part of the nation, because at the end of the day, you would want them on your side than to be with Rox, which Rox was trying to pull him on his side, but he wasn't going for it. But it was just cool to see like the interaction between them two, um, because at the end of the day, you do see where you have the world government, or the top people in the world government who want to use people, and then you have people who are like Garb, Otsuru, and Sengoku, who think Harold is a great person, a great human being, and they just want him on, their side, just because, not because they want to use them, but because they think that they're good people and they want to be, something more than, quote unquote, where they were, or a legal country. That's all. They just want their people to be better, or be in a better situation than what they're already in. Which, like I said, is pretty cool to see the difference in the mindsets of, even the people in the world government. We then end off the chapter with Shaki going from being the captain of the Kuja Pirates, because you remember Gloriosa left. Shaki going from being the captain of the Kuja Pirates to now she quit the Kuja Pirates within like a year or a couple months, and then she goes to then stay on Pirate Island, and basically orders everybody on Pirate Island to basically clean up, because it smelled bad, and hey, they made her a bar and all that stuff. So she ended up having a bar on Pirate Island, right? This being a major point in this time period, because at this point in time, the people on Pirate Island, the Rocks Pirates, all of the people who stayed on Pirate Island began to think of Shaki as a treasure. Now, again, I'm probably gonna have to make a different video for this, but again, this is where I began to think maybe Shaki was the reason for God Valley, because yes, devil fruits were on the line, but as we get in this chapter, if Shaki was the portrayed, you know, irreplaceable crown jewel of Pirate Island, and unfortunately, a treasure is always a target of theft. That right there, that line right there, should let you know everything. Should let you know everything. So, I definitely felt like she was the reason for God Valley, but I will make another video about the more recent chapters and stuff like that to really get in depth about what's going on with those. But yeah, that is what's going on in One Piece. Like I said, I'm not really trying to tell you guys too much. I'm trying to give you guys really some tidbits of what's going on, because I know a lot of you guys aren't really caught up. But a lot of things are happening. A lot of stuff is going on, and I just want to talk to you guys about it. If you guys want to hear more specific things, let me know. Talk to me. Comment, DM. I'm always here with open ears. But I know this one was kind of abrupt and not necessarily done the best, but next time I'll try and have a little bit more structure. But I kind of just wanted to push this out because, like I said, it's been a little minute since I've talked about anime, and I just wanted to kind of just get on here and chop it up with y'all about it. But hope y'all have a great day. Have a great Sunday. Nothing but G takes. Make sure you guys like, comment, and subscribe. If you guys want to, like I said, hear me talk about any other not demon, but any other anime like Demon Slayer or One Punch Man. That one's about to start back up, as well as not Chainsaw Man, not My Hero. I can't remember, but it's something else that everybody likes that's about to come back out. But yeah, man, be on the lookout. If y'all want to talk about that, let me know. If y'all want to talk about anything else that y'all want to talk about, let me know. But without further ado, I'll talk to y'all later, man. Thanks for coming out. Peace.